least this time I'm not feeling fear really, but I can't sleep. There was a little bit of fear. I got up and I took more vitamins, and I laid down, and right away I went into this space where I was breathing like I was sleeping, but I was awake. And then I was laying there sleeping but awake, and I realized I was awake. And then my brain said, "Oh my God, you took too many vitamins." And then I woke up, but I was already awake. It was so bizarre. And then I was just trying to stay awake, even though I was already awake when I was sleeping. So it's like I can't go to sleep. And before that, I had a really strange experience where I again was awake, but I went into this death realm where my heart was pounding, but firing and misfiring. I went into this nothingness realm. It was really weird. But there was no fear. I can't even really remember what happened. But the point is, I can't sleep. But there hasn't been fear, but I want to sleep. And when I went into that realm of not sleeping, but sleeping, when it's like, oh, you took too many supplements, and there was a little bit of fear. It was like, I have to medicate myself more. But I need to be able to drive, and I need to be able to be normal. I don't know about this. I don't like being in that dark room and awake. I gotta try and sleep. What's interesting about this video is that all points are low amplitude. The AF7, AF8, AF9, or whatever they're called, they're all low. When I've taken this before, when I've been in distress, usually the temporal lobes are really, really high amplitude. And so I was kind of surprised to see that all the lines, especially on that first screen, are quite small. And they stayed that way. So it's kind of telling me that the brain is in a different state. It's not in a distressed state. Perhaps it's not bringing in time. Perhaps it's fully awake, maybe too awake. And I also took a recording that was sent to my Dropbox of the raw data. So these are the ones that I'm talking about mostly, that usually the TP9 and TP10 and AF8, I believe, are really, really high amplitude. Last night was really weird. I talked about it for a little bit last night. At a certain point in the night, I don't know what time that was. Let me check. Oh, I talked to myself at 1:30 in the morning. So it was still really early, and I didn't get to sleep till probably 7 o'clock in the morning. And I finally decided to take Zoplicone. And I haven't taken Zoplicone in years, probably like 6 years. I don't even know what the bottle says on it. Oh, that's Trazodone. I don't know where it went. I didn't want to take Trazodone because Trazodone is an SSRI, and then that would interfere with my ability to take St. John's wort and tryptophan. And well, it was a really long night. I had those weird experiences where I felt like I was going to have a weird experience when I was falling asleep or trying to fall asleep. Like everything got kind of wavy, like things were feeling like they were getting really movie. And so I turned over on my right side and I laid in a fetal position. And then all of a sudden at some point, like I started breathing kind of like rhythmically, and then it felt like my heart, like there was all this energy, like the side of my heart, like it was just going like rapid firing. And as it was rapid firing, it was almost like a firework propelling me into space. It felt like I'd been propelled into space, and it was pitch black in the room. So like I didn't even know where I was or what was happening. It was really, really hard to describe. And I remember kind of feeling like I wanted it to stop, but also I didn't feel any fear. And it felt kind of like death, but there was no fear associated with it. So again, it's like this weird stuff happening, but no fear. And then at some point I remember it kind of like rubbed my eye, and I was like, oh, I didn't really mean to do that, because obviously that kind of stopped it. And that was kind of like subtly asking it to stop but not meaning to. And then I was trying to sleep after that, and that went on for a while. And then I was trying to sleep after that, and I just couldn't sleep. So I got up and I took another zinc, because I had only taken one, and I took one extra sunflower lecithin, and I took one extra taurine and an extra lithium orotate and a bit more glycine, something like that, nothing extravagant. And I laid down, and I felt like it was weird, because it was like right away, and I realized I was sleeping, but I was wide awake. Like it felt like my eyes were open, I was wide awake, but my body was sleeping. So this brings in an element like, who is the I that's awake? I think that's the problem. There's some other element waking up. And that was awake, but my body, with that other sense of self, was asleep. You know, I heard myself breathing, and then I heard myself going like, and stuff like that. And I was like, this is just weird. And then I was like that. And then something in my mind said, you've taken too many supplements. I've taken too many supplements. I've got to medicate myself. And I woke up kind of like in a whirl. And there was like a tiny bit of fear, but like barely anything. It was kind of like, oh, that was weird. It was more like weird hearing the sound of my voice saying, you've taken too many supplements. You got to medicate yourself. And considering how the night went, had I listened to that at that point and taken some medication, maybe the night would have been better and I wouldn't have missed out on the next day. Because I waited a while, and then I got up and I decided to take some D-serine for psychosis, even though I wasn't feeling anything psychotic. And then I took some inositol powder, and I took some clove oil, and I laid down on the couch. And I did feel a bit more relaxed, like I was able to maybe snooze a bit. I might have slept for an hour, I might have slept not at all, but I felt kind of more relaxed. That vibrating energy was there. but I still wasn't sleeping. And then I heard a toilet flush, and then I woke up. It was 4 a.m. I was like, okay, I really haven't slept. So I decided later on to take some of the branched chain amino acids. Even though I wasn't feeling super manic, I was feeling really like energetic and awake, and that should do something. So I took that in juice, and I noticed that the vibrating sensation, like up here, eventually went into my lower chakras, like my stomach, and kind of like right around my butthole. And it was like, oh, it's vibrating around those centers, and it felt like it was like releasing energy from there. So it is supposed to draw dopamine out of the brain and into the body or muscles or something like that. So it did have a sense of that, perhaps, and I still do hear that loud noise, that grindy energy. And I don't know if it's a sense of two realities mixing, yet I don't feel in conflict with that other reality. So the conversation I had to have, like, things feel kind of just fine, but I don't know if it's a relativity in consciousness thing, like by virtue of interacting with those in a slowed down reality, I'm even more speeded up. Or interacting with that reality but being speeded up, I literally can't sleep. Or maybe that was the split. Like, I was sleeping, but I wasn't okay with the fact that I was sleeping, but I was awake while I was sleeping. Maybe I'm supposed to get used to that. I didn't really like that. I kind of want to be asleep when I'm sleeping. It was really weird. And yeah, so the branched chain amino acids didn't put me to sleep. Nothing put me to sleep. And by the morning time, I started like crying, and I was desperate. I was like, I just want to sleep. It was interesting because it wasn't like I just no longer want to live or crying about anything like that. I just wanted to sleep. So I finally took 2 more quetiapine, and it'd been hours later. Laid down, that didn't put me to sleep. And I was thinking, well, I'm not feeling anything psychosis-y. I might at some point if I don't sleep. I just really feel tired. And in the past, I haven't had good experience on Zopiclone, like when having psychosis and taking it to sleep. But I'm like feeling like I just plain old need to sleep, and this is a sleeping pill. So I took 2. It says take 1 to 2 as needed. Didn't really do anything after a while, but it did make me stop crying. And then I took 2 more, and I passed out all day. So had I known and just taken 2 to begin with, I probably would have slept all night and not missed a beat today. But I was trying, and had I listened to that initial voice in my head that just said, I need to medicate myself, is what it said. So, this really could be a clue that there is a time and a place for supplements, and there is a time and a place for medications. Like, supplements can tranquilize the brain, but I don't know if they can really slow it down with this whole relativity and consciousness possibility. So I feel like I need to get some more of those Zopiclones. And I slept all day, so for tonight, I'm going to try and take my supplements that I take and take the quetiapine and maybe take 1 Zopiclone or something and see if it makes me sleep. And I hope it does, because tomorrow I need to pack. And it's kind of, I was hoping that this kind of process would hold off, but this will make it harder to leave as it is. But that's just kind of the way it is. But yeah, total weird stuff. So yeah, I missed out on a dentist today and a dinner, and I'll probably have to pay for like a missed visit fee, but that's the thing with this thing happening. It always kind of messes up something, and there's some kind of cost of some kind. But you know, it's so far, it still could turn into something scary, but so far it's a big win that there hasn't been any psychosis associated with not sleeping. Like last time in October, it was I couldn't sleep, and it was like scary stuff happening, and this time I was like I couldn't sleep, and then I went with this whole like rocket shipping into emptiness, which was kind of fun. Like it wasn't scary, it was interesting. So it's like the scary stuff isn't really there. Yeah, I don't know. I just hope tomorrow I have some semblance of myself back, that I'm able to pack and take it easy to try to get out of here. Because I could think, oh, I won't go because I wasn't sleeping, but if I have the tools to sleep, then it should be okay. I might not pack as much, like I might just pack to keep it simple, because if I go and I'm in a simple consciousness, then I won't really have the energy to be all fancy anyway. But it's so interesting how yesterday I was completely fine. Like the only indications I had of this coming are a tiny bit of anxiety in my heart on Saturday, and maybe a tiny bit in my stomach on like Thursday or Friday. And the timing of it all. And then poof, not being able to sleep last night. And last night was a full moon too. I did look that up. But, you know, maybe it's turned into a sleep problem. I do remember kind of talking to my heart a little bit before all this started last night, like, grow up, enough of this. Like, not wanting it to go into any kind of psychosis-y stuff, and it didn't. My brain just would not go to sleep. Well, I did go to sleep, just in a weird way. Maybe I need to be fine with that weird way of sleeping. It's like watching myself sleep. But I guess I get a little scared because I know that I have to sleep. So if I don't know that that's still sleep, it's all a learning process. And I'm wondering, well, the Zopicone prescription is from March 2015, and it's May 2018. So that shows you the last time I got prescribed that, and I didn't even take it then. I think I took it once in the hospital and I didn't like it. But they gave me it, but I never took it. But it's good to hang on to old prescriptions just in case. But the thing I was thinking of is that I've talked about with myself how the process of so-called psychosis and then depression, I feel, is part of what happens because of the relativity in consciousness. So if I'm going at a speeded up consciousness in so-called mania, and then say I'm living with people who I know who are operating at consensus level, and I'm sort of doing my own thing in mania, and then when I interact with them, consciousness has to slow down really quickly, and then I probably manifest as moody in the way they see me, but really it's that my consciousness speed has to slow down. So I'm almost kind of moody that I have to communicate with somebody who just doesn't really get what I'm doing. Or if they were able to communicate at that level, then there'd be nothing to get all moody about. They would be happy with me. So anyway, besides that, so I experienced this sort of thing last night, but there was no process of psychosis and then depression, which could still happen, to accompany that. So, which often a psychosis and mania, they manifest as not being able to sleep. But mine was not being able to sleep, but without the psychosis and mania. And I'm wondering if part of that is because I wasn't doing anything beforehand to really create a strong sense of I doing something. So then when the crash came, or in this case, just my brain kind of being messed up and not being able to sleep, there was no real I story involved in that. It wasn't like, oh, I'm doing all this great stuff and oh, now I can't, so now I feel bad, so now there's this experience of psychosis or depression. But still, it seems that the brain and the being and the body do need a way to slow its down relative to others, because I did have an interaction with others yesterday, and it's about time for things to slow down again. And that could have been why I had that come to mind when I was in that sort of half asleep state that said, I need to medicate myself. That's what it said. It's not something that I would really think of myself per se, but it was kind of like saying, well, this is what it's going to slow it down, is taking these medications. So medications can be seen as putting the brakes on, whether or not there's some kind of psychological symptomology or not. And so maybe if I don't have the psychological symptomology, I don't need the psychological meds, but maybe I need sleep meds, for example. I don't know. But we'll see. But what I'm saying is there's still this need to slow down, which I was able to do by taking the sleep meds. And the psychological stuff could still come out at a later point. I don't know. But I've never had that before where I was up like that, and the basic problem was that I just couldn't sleep. I almost imagined myself going to the psych ward being like, I can't sleep. And then I realized I can figure this problem out on my own. I can eventually make myself sleep. I can take the sleeping pills as a last resort. And maybe I would have gotten to that sooner had that first experience not been quite so weird. When it was like I laid down and I was asleep in 1 second. But I was awake. My body was asleep. I don't know, I'll have to do some pondering on that one. But I don't know if I'm yeah, I don't know if I'm making the points clear about how I've been lately in terms of not building up an I. So then now it's time for that energy to slow down relatively, in relativity, but it's not really, there's no real psychological process involved as much as like a biological thing. Like the brain just wouldn't go to sleep. It's too awake. It's too awake for this world. So gotta kind of tranquilize that into going to sleep. So we'll see if that changes what I need to do. And I think having taken the supplements, that's given my brain the capacity to build the structures it needs to feel safe and not create these epiphenomenon of psychological fears and things like that. Like when I knew that weird stuff was going to happen last night, I basically rolled over and got into a position that signified, okay, I'm like a fetus being reborn here. Do whatever you want. Like, and it was weird. It really was. It wasn't a matter of like thinking. It was like a body and consciousness phenomenon. So I don't know if it's over, but that sound is still there. I do feel, though, that I do need to get out of here for sure. As long as I have a good sleep tonight, I think I'll be able to do that. So yeah, I think not creating anything, doing anything purposefully was helpful. If that was the most of it, then, you know, if I can get over the worst of it and then go have a nice trip, that'll be nice. And also I have supplements to help neuroplasticity. I'm probably going to not take a bunch of the dopamine ones and see what happens. There are quite a few dopamine ones. I might switch away from those because those are kind of stimulating, and I did have coffee yesterday, and I don't know if that played into it, but I probably should have not had coffee. I feel like it's possible that like another layer of my brain woke up. Like something else was awakened. Yeah, hopefully I can try to go back to sleep pretty soon. One thing I didn't take was uridine. I didn't feel suicidal, so I didn't take the suicidal remedies. Except the inositol, I did take that because I looked it up on Google and it was supposed to be somewhat helpful for sleep. Tastes good too. It's kind of like icing sugar. Yeah, so tonight I'll take the same remedies. I'll take some inositol. I'll take some clove oil probably. And tomorrow I'll look at some new remedies as well. Not the stimulating ones like methylfolate though. think my brain is really awake right now and needs to settle into that and rest. And last night was the first night I was able to talk to myself while some of it was happening. And that's because there was no real I involved in it. And the I is the fear. So I think the stepwise thing that has been happening over time where the fear seems to have left, I think it's true. Otherwise, last night could have created all sorts of fearful stories. And it's so interesting to have an experience like this that could have so easily been some kind of thing like psychosis, and having it simply be, I had trouble sleeping. Truthfully, it was, I have trouble sleeping. It wasn't, oh, I was having suicidal thoughts or anything like that at all. So if someone asked me, it's like, yeah, I had trouble sleeping. Well, I had that weird, interesting stuff, but there was no scary stuff. And so then, if that's what it is, then it gets to a point where it's not even something that one feels one needs to hide from someone. It's like, yeah, sometimes I have trouble sleeping. Who knows?